eater, all claws and teeth and bite. She chewed bones and rocks and stray feathers. Sometimes she chewed her brothers. There was no need, Raksha's mother would tell her, to battle to the death over a half-chewed rabbit. You must work on your priorities, little one, she would say. Not everything has to be a battle. The cave they lived in was halfway up the mountain, with a narrow mouth but a wide chamber, warm in the winter and dry in the rains. It smelt reassuringly of wolf breath and dry earth, unless the smallest of the wolf cubs, Beddy, had farted. In the cave they grew fast and they grew strong. Raksha was grey like her brothers, but unlike her brothers the tips of her ears were black. As you know, we are born with blue eyes that turn yellow, but one of Raksha's eyes stayed the colour of the sky. It made her easy to identify, easy to remember. The day came when the pack council was held. The chief of the pack was, back then, a vast black she-wolf by the name of Naka. This is when Akela was nothing more than a skinny-ribbed youngster, long before he became the lone wolf, the leader of all wolves. Raksha's mother licked each of the cubs until they shone in the moonlight, and then guided and nudged and carried them as they trekked to the rock for the looking over. It was a long walk for a small cub. Soon Raksha's paws began to burn and ache, but she refused, unlike Beddy, to ride on her mother's back or in her mouth. The law of the jungle dictates that each new litter of cubs must be brought to the rock so the rest of the pack may identify them, learn their faces, memorise their smell. Then, after the looking over, if a grown wolf kills a cub before it's old enough to have slaughtered its first buck, the penalty for that killing must be death. "Run, little ones," said Raksha's mother. "Show yourself to the pack." And she rocked her head back and howled so the wolves would hear. "Look well, O wolves! See my cubs! Remember their faces! Look well!" A wolf cub is, as a rule, a fragile thing. Fur as fluffy as a bear's stomach, and eyes as wide open as a butterfly's wings. But there are exceptions to every rule, and Raksha was an exception. Her fur was fluffy, certainly, and her eyes were wide, but she was not fragile. Already she was taller than any of her brothers, and the joints in her 4 legs sprang faster than the rest. The cubs tore round the council rock, biting at one another's necks and tails in excitement, watched carefully by the adult wolves. Beddy ran helter-skelter across the rock, feverish with excitement. He bit down on the nearest tail. It happened to belong to Naka, who swiped at him with her paw, not terribly indulgently. The blow sent him flying into Raksha's nose. "Look where you're going, Beddy," said Raksha. She could feel her skin growing hot and angry under her fur. She swung out at him with her claws, but he ducked and skittered away. Naka looked at them, unblinking as she stalked past. "Look well, O wolves," she called, glaring at Beddy scrambling behind. "It wasn't his fault," said a strange cub to Raksha. He was plumpish and short-tailed, with ginger patches on his chest and front paws. Until that moment he'd been sheltering at his mother's side. "Who are you? What business is it of yours?" asked Raksha. She sounded slightly ruder than she'd meant to, but it was not right, she felt, for a strange cub to be butting into business between her and her brother. "My name's Adrak," said the strange cub. "At least, it's not my real proper name, but it means ginger, and my real name's the same as my father's, so the other wolves kept getting confused, so—" His voice tailed off at the sight of Raksha, who was doing her best to look bored and impressive at once. "And," she said, "and you're Raksha. You're the one who tried to kill a squirrel before you'd grown any teeth." "So what if I am?" said Raksha. "So nothing. I'm just saying." "And you're an only cub. You don't have brothers and sisters. That's why you're soft." Adrak looked down at the black fur on his stomach. "I'm not soft," he said. "I dare you then." "Dare me to do what?" said Adrak. You can't just say, "I dare you." Dares are specific."